For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think. The first weekend of the NFL playoffs for 2022 are in the books, and there were no upsets to speak of, except if you believe that teams like the Las Vegas Raiders or the Dallas Cowboys should have been able to win their games. The Vegas Raiders started off behind 20-3, rallied to come back, and fell just short of defeating the Cincinnati Bengals, losing the game by a single touchdown. The Dallas Cowboys used the same approach as the Raiders, fell behind, came back, and fell just short of defeating the San Francisco 49ers, losing by a touchdown. But these aren't the stories coming out of those games. The stories coming out of those games are officiating calls that may or may not have affected the outcome of those games. With the Raiders and the Bengals, the Raiders were down 13-3, and Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow scrambled to his right and just before stepping out of bounds threw a pass that was caught in the end zone by Tyler Boyd for an apparent touchdown. The problem with that play was that a referee on the field blew a whistle while the ball was in the air. And for those who actually know the rules of football, when a whistle blows during a play, that means the play is over. No matter what happens after, the play is over. So while the ball was in the air, a whistle blew, which means that the play is over. So if the ball is caught in the end zone for a touchdown, the touchdown doesn't count because half of the players on the field probably stopped moving once they heard the whistle blow. And that's what some of the players who were affected by that play are saying. They heard the whistle, they stopped moving, and Boyd was wide open and he caught the touchdown. Now, the officials met on the field to discuss it and made the ruling on their own that the whistle blew after the ball was caught. It was no big deal. But you could clearly see and hear on replay that the whistle blew while the ball was in the air. And the Raiders lost by a touchdown when it was all said and done. Now, that's not to say that the Bengals might not have scored on the very next play and the outcome of the game would have been the same, but it's just the idea that the play was allowed to continue and the play was allowed to stand after a clear violation of the rules. So the Raiders have a claim, and if they wanted to, they could file a protest, though protests in the NFL don't really mean much because the NFL is going to say the rule is the rule, the calls are the calls, and we're not going to replay the game. So the same thing happened to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are down 6 points to the 49ers. They're marching down the field trying to get in position for a touchdown play. They're out of timeouts, so quarterback Dak Prescott executes a quarterback sneak that picks up 26 yards and gets the team to the 49ers' 14-yard line. And now here's the problem. With no timeouts and the clock ticking down quickly, Dak Prescott has to get his team to the line and spike the ball so that the clock will stop so they have time for one play. But the rule in the league is that you have to give the ball to the ref, or the ref has to touch the ball after the play. He has to spot it on the field, and then the quarterback can pick it up and do whatever. By the time Dak Prescott got his team to the line and attempted to spike the ball, the referee wasn't there yet because the referee was running behind Dak Prescott. The play was very quick. Dak ran pretty fast. The referee couldn't keep up. Dak was tackled and down. The referee could not get to the spot at the end of the play to pick the ball up, put it on the field so Dak could line up the Cowboys and spike the ball. By the time the referee got there, he ran into the back of Dak Prescott. Dak had to get out of his way. The referee got around Dak, picked up the ball, put it down, and Dak spiked it. But the clock had already expired. And so the referees met. And they talked about it, and they determined that because the procedure hadn't been followed, because the referee had not touched the ball yet, by the time the referee touched the ball, if Dak had gotten out of the referee's way and the referee had been able to touch the ball, Dak might have had a second left on the clock. But because of the time that it took for the referee to get to the ball, the clock ran out before the referee got there, so the game was over, and the Cowboys lost by 6 points. So the Cowboys and their fans were rightfully upset. Cowboy fans were throwing things onto the field. And at first, the Cowboy players thought, why are our fans throwing things at us? until the fans went on social media and indicated we weren't throwing things at you Cowboys. We were throwing things at the refs because that was not fair. But it was. And now the Raiders might have had an issue because what happened to them clearly affected the outcome of the game because that touchdown was allowed to stand and the Raiders lost by 7. But in the situation of the Cowboys, it's not so much the fault of the referee that he couldn't get to the ball. The quarterback sneak that Dak Prescott run covered 26 yards. And Dak ran that play pretty fast. And the officials aren't athletes, otherwise they wouldn't be officials, they'd be players. The officials aren't athletes. The lead official got there as quickly as he humanly could to get the ball and put it in play. Now, if the NFL wanted to change the rule and say that any official could spot the ball, then that would be different and the Cowboys might have had an opportunity to try to win the game. But the rule is the lead official, the guy who stands behind the play, is the one who has to spot the ball. And so he has to make up the same amount of ground that Dak Prescott made up in the same amount of time to get the ball in play so that the Cowboys can have a chance to run one more play. And he couldn't because Dak and the Cowboys were so eager to line up and get this play done that they stood in the referee's way. And as I said, if another official is allowed to spot the ball and have it be, in quotes, official, then it would be fine. And the Cowboys might have had a chance to win this game. But the rules are the rules. And in this situation, if you're Dak Prescott or if you're the Cowboy center, you get out of the way and let the ref touch the ball. Because the 1 or 2 seconds that it took the ref to get around the quarterback and around the center might have been the difference in the Cowboys winning or losing. But it's sad, really, that these aren't regular season games. These aren't games where you have 16 now, 17 or 16 more. These aren't games where you have 16 more in your season, and if you lose one, it's not a big deal because you could win the other 16 and still have the best record in the league. But it's sad that in the playoffs, calls by the officials, obscure calls by the officials based on obscure rules affect the outcome of the playoffs and potentially teams that might have had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not standing here saying that the Raiders or the Cowboys were going to go to the Super Bowl, but anything's possible. Because there have been teams that have won as wild cards and made it all the way to the Super Bowl and won the championship. It's happened. I mean, if you think about the history of the Raiders in the playoffs, one of the last times the Raiders were in the playoffs, they played against Tom Brady and the Patriots. And Tom Brady was sacked, and the ball was knocked out of his hand, and it appeared to be a fumble. But the referees invoked an obscure rule that said if the arm goes forward and then the ball comes out, that it's not a fumble, it's an incomplete pass. But what Brady was doing when he brought the ball forward, he was tucking it by his side to attempt not to fumble. And since the ball came out, it should have been a fumble. Except the rule says that he could tuck it by his body, but because his arm went forward in order to do that, it's an incomplete pass. And that's why that game has been legendarily called the tuck rule game. So the Raiders have been faulted and victimized by referee calls before. And this one is no exception. Their plan or their job will be to come back next year just as strong and get in the playoffs again and have it not take another 20 years before they get into the playoffs again. And have it not take another 15 years before they have another winning record. That's their job. Come back next year, do it again. The Cowboys actually have the same job. Come back next year and do it again. You were victimized by your own exuberance and the fact that the referees are not as athletic as the players. Because in other sports, basketball referees run up and down the court. They're just as athletic as the players. Hockey referees have to be on skates and skate around with the players. So they're just as athletic. Soccer officials the same way. And baseball referees don't move. They just stand in one place. So they don't have to be athletic. But in football, the officials are older men who are watching these games while the athletes in football get faster and faster. Sadly, while the athletes get faster and faster, the officials just get older and older. And things like this are going to happen. So what Dak Prescott might have done was stopped his run 1 or 2 yards sooner and left more time on the clock. But that's foresight that becomes hindsight, and we're Monday morning quarterbacking a situation that in the moment he did what he had to do. If he runs a few less yards and then slides, that gives the referee time to get there because there's more seconds on the clock. But in the heat of the moment, he was making a play, he was helping his team, and there was nothing that was going to stop him from achieving his goal, because a quarterback sneak that runs 26 yards could conceivably run 40 and score a touchdown and win the game. So why would you stop? To save time on the clock. So you blame yourself and then you move on. But I hope that Dak Prescott tells the fans that, yeah, the referees did what they did, but in essence, he was partly to blame because he could have stopped running a second or two sooner. But still, the referees deciding games at this level, when it's one and done in the playoffs, something has to change with that also. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. And follow me on Facebook at Eric J on Sports 1 and on Instagram and Twitter at Eric J on Sports. And for Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think.